All right, and I'm back. So, we have what I consider to be the best episode of the Book of Boba Fett yet, and it was actually an episode of The Mandalorian in disguise. So, let's break it down. Welcome to the newest episode of SDW.
Super Dario World!
So, like I said, this was not an episode of the Book of Boba Fett, okay? All right, it was a great episode. I very much thoroughly enjoyed it. It was fantastic, but this was not an episode of the Book of Boba Fett. It was an episode of The Mandalorian, and that's why it was so great. It reminds me like the difference, the vastness in tone of both shows, and how one is so phenomenal and the other one is, it's not there yet. Now it's got potential and it's set up stuff. Again, episode 5 of Book of Boba Fett set up interesting stuff that could make this show better, mainly just adding Jin, or whoever you want to call him, Mando, into the series. But it's got its ups and downs. Now it also set up interesting things for the world of the Mandalorian. And so before I get into all that stuff, let me just give you a quick reminder that any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can find me at Super Dario World on YouTube and on Twitch, streaming live. Like I said, next few weeks, my schedule is going to be in flux. So probably I'll stream Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at around 3 p.m. maybe. I'm torn about this because at 4 o'clock, I know my internet's shit. I don't know why my internet's shit at 4 o'clock. So maybe I'll wait for 5. I don't know, because I don't know how it's going to be at 3 o'clock. We'll see how it goes. I might just wait till 5, because honestly, I like the way it looks. It looks a little bit darker. It looks a little bit sexier. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, that doesn't matter right now. If you want to send me something privately, you can always do that on Instagram at Super Dario World and at DarioSDW. Also, I'll probably be looking for an editor soon, because I hate editing. So if you guys know anybody out there who wants to like get into editing, or is kind of looking into, because I know I can't get a pro, but I don't know, I could probably work with somebody, and I'll pay you a little bit, but we'll see how that goes. If you guys know anybody, send them in my direction, and those are the easiest way for you to contact me. So let's get into it. I was talking about the Book of Boba Fett. However, like I mentioned, episode 5 of the Book of Boba Fett was not a Book of Boba Fett episode. It was an episode of The Mandalorian, and since it was an episode of The Mandalorian, if you guys remember, I have it open for The Mandalorian. It's called The Good, the Bad of The Mandalorian, and so we're going to do that now. So we're going to break down The Good, the Bad, and The Mandalorian.
I like those odds.
Honestly, I just kind of wanted to play that because I love that song. Dun, 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 dun. So, I know it's not an episode of The Mandalorian. I just don't care. I just wanted to play it. And I guess I could do The Good, the Bad, and The Mandalorian again. What I did in The Good, the Bad, and The Mandalorian is I told you the things that I liked about the episode, told you the things that I didn't like about the episode, and then I broke down a fun fact. I might be able to do that here. But what I've been doing so far is basically just break down the entire episode bit by bit. And honestly, I think that's a little bit more fun. So let's go through the entire episode of the Book of Boba Fett, and let's see the things that made sense, the things that didn't make sense, and all that stuff. So the episode begins in a very unfamiliar place. I don't think we've ever seen this type of setting in the Star Wars universe before. It's a butcher shop, and it just looks very normal. And I guess that's what I'm trying to say. This one doesn't feel like we're in Star Wars at all. It feels like we're actually in our world, like a butcher shop in our world that's just got a bunch of ugly people in it. The meat looks very normal. The setting looks very normal. Look, they have trays like this. That's like a cake tray. That's like a sheet. So it looks extremely ordinary. It felt a little bit out of place. But then all of a sudden, our boy Mando walks in the door. And again, they call him Mando because of Mandalorian, but his name is actually Jin, D-G-I-N. Now, I'll probably be switching around with how I call him, but just know, I'll just probably call him Mando because that's easier for everybody. But just so we're clear, his real name is his name is Jin. Anyway, so Mando walks through the door, and obviously I was like shitting my pants. Like, this is fucking phenomenal. Like, this is great. Like, we're gonna get a scene with Mando. All right, and from the previous episode, we know that Boba Fett wants to get some muscle. This is starting off great. Like, this is awesome, and also, this is also good because we don't know exactly what happened to Mando at the end of season 2. So this is actually saving us a little bit for the next season of The Mandalorian, because usually, season 3, they're gonna set up Mando in a new setting. They gotta, because the story kind of wrapped up really nicely in the end of season 2. So, all right, so what's Mando been doing, and what's the next season of The Mandalorian going to be about? This was actually extremely helpful. So we see Mando, and he's back to being basically a bounty hunter. He's going around chasing people, and he's walking around this setting, and he meets a guy and basically is like, hey, I'm here to get this guy, and it's you, and I can bring you in warm, I can bring you in cold, which is basically to say, like, I can take you dead or alive. So he ends up deciding, the other guy decides he wants to fight, and then a fight ensues. And I'll tell you something about this particular episode. I was taken for a ride in many ways. Now, you guys, if you've listened to my content at all, you know that I'm kind of immediately, I get upset with things. I'm like, I don't like this immediately. However, this episode, that happened a lot actually in this episode, like, oh, I don't like this. But later on in the episode, I was turned. Like, I was, okay, all right, I like this. They did something with it. So I'm going to complain about things, but afterwards I'll be like, all right, that was a good thing. So we have this little, basically 5 against 1 scenario. And this fight honestly is kind of crappy. It's kind of crappy in the sense that Mando is the one who ends up injuring himself with a lightsaber, but he uses the dark saber. So first off, we see that he actually has the dark saber. He keeps using it, and he's kind of getting his ass kicked in a way. And you're like, man, we've seen this guy fight. He should be able to take on this dude. And now with the dark saber, what the fuck's happening? Now, he does injure himself. Like, the biggest injury he sustained was by himself. And that's something that every single Star Wars fan has always said. If I had a lightsaber, I would be the first person to kill that would injure myself. Like, I would be my own biggest enemy with a lightsaber. There's no way that I'm not cutting myself with a lightsaber. It's impossible. And so it's actually kind of funny to see Mando being like his own worst enemy with the dark saber. So it looks like the fight looks kind of crappy. Mando's slicing up the ground and stuff, and you're like, man, you'd think he'd be stronger with it, but he actually looks kind of lamer. And it was bugging me because I was like, this is just bad choreography. But they actually do something with it. So it's one of those situations where, like, I guess I should shut the fuck up. But all right, it doesn't look good. Mando doesn't look at 100%, and he ends up limping out of there. And again, his injury is self-sustained. And then there's this whole thing with all the other workers and him being like, hey, there's money in there. I already killed your boss. Just take the money and let me walk away. And so they're doing something that they don't do with the Book of Boba Fett, all right? They're doing something with Mando here, and that's they're making Mando look cool. Now, he kind of had to, like, stumble his way through that fight, which kind of make him a little bit lame, but still, it's a 5 against 1 fight. And the major injury he sustained, he made to himself. And afterwards, he walks out and he looks like a tough guy. He's like, yeah, I'm cool. I just did that. And I'm also helping the little people. We don't have issues here. So they're making Mando look cool, which is something that they've never done with Boba Fett. I don't know why they don't want to make Boba Fett look cool. It's really annoying. It's probably the most annoying part of the Book of Boba Fett, that they don't want to make Boba Fett look cool, which is insane, because the only reason why people like Boba Fett is because Boba Fett looks super cool. Like, that's the reason why he became so popular, because he didn't really do much. Okay, I mean, he actually looks kind of like a dumbass in Return of the Jedi, but he is, like, just cool. His presence is cool. I don't know why they're not milking that a little bit more. That's the reason why he was a fan favorite, even though he didn't really do much. So it's one of those situations where here they're doing it for Mando. Mando looks cool. He walks away. He limps away, but he looks like a tough guy. He looks like a badass. He looks competent. He's walking away with a head in a bag, and everybody's like, basically like, do whatever you want. I mean, I could kill you, or you could go in and make money. Make a decision. See, this is Michael Corleone stuff, right? This is fun stuff. Anyway, so Mando walks out of there, and everybody's excited. I'm super excited. And then we're treated to something very interesting. A new world. Well, it's not really a world. It's like a space station. And where you're looking at it, it's basically the ring from Halo. However, when we go into this ring, like the ring, the space station, you look closely at it, this is actually Mass Effect. Now, this is something that I'm torn on, and very, very torn on. They're turning, and they did it in the previous episodes, with all the cyberpunk dudes. They're turning Star Wars into Mass Effect. Now, I love Mass Effect, so I'm torn. This is why I'm torn. Okay. For those of you who don't know, Mass Effect is it's a video game franchise, right? And it's a fantastic video game franchise. It's a sci-fi video game franchise. I highly recommend it. It's got one of the greatest villainous threats of all time. It's a phenomenal game. It's a phenomenal trilogy. The extra one's not that great, but the games are phenomenal, and it's pure sci-fi. It's extremely well made. The villains are great. The characters are great. The story development. I remember the description. Like, the greatest review I've read for it is a landmark in storytelling or something. It's a landmark in interactive storytelling. I highly recommend the franchise. It's great. If you're a gamer, I think the Legendary Edition, where they compiled the entire trilogy, just came out. And it was fun. It's really good. So the games hold up, is my point. Anyway, both Halo and Mass Effect are pure sci-fi. I've always said the Star Wars, it's closer to fantasy. So again, Halo, Mass Effect, sci-fi. I would classify Star Wars as fantasy. Now, the reason why I say that, and people always get mad at me, is because to me this is sci-fi. Sci-fi basically means there's rules set in this world, and you can't break them. Now, you can change things, but it has to be logical and has to be explained. Star Wars doesn't really have rules. I mean, you have literal magic users. The Jedi are basically magic. And so it's never really been sci-fi. It's always had like whatever rules. Like, oh yeah, we're traveling at light speed. But you don't explain it. Mass Effect, they actually explain how they travel at the particular speeds, why they can do it. So there's no real logic behind Star Wars. It's just kind of set up. So basically, Star Wars is fantasy in a sci-fi setting. Mass Effect is sci-fi in a sci-fi setting. I hope that makes any sense. Anyway, so it feels weird to see these together, and I don't particularly like it because there's a charm to fantasy in a sci-fi setting, but okay, we'll see what they do with it. The point I'm trying to make here, and I went about it in a very, very roundabout way, is that in the book of Boba Fett, and now in what looks like The Mandalorian, it looks like they're trying to change Star Wars, at least the setting of Star Wars, into the setting of Mass Effect. And again, this is basically the Citadel from Mass Effect. Imagine the Citadel from Mass Effect, but in the shape of the ring from Halo. So I'm torn, because they could do a lot of stuff with it, and they could do interesting stuff with it. I'm concerned because we may be losing the charm of what Star Wars is. But we'll see. Again, so far they haven't fucked up. I'm a little confused, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway, so now that that's out of the way, we get to see Mando walking around a lot through the space station. And honestly, this is probably the weird part of the episode. This was directed by Bryce Dallas Howard. So for those of you who don't know, Bryce Dallas Howard is the daughter of director Ron Howard, and you've probably seen her in the Jurassic World movies. She's the redhead. Great actress. I like her as an actress. As a director, not so much. She's directed a few episodes of The Mandalorian. The last one I remember is she did probably the most boring episode of The Mandalorian, which is the one where they're in the jungle with the people, and you guys remember there's raiders with a walker, and I thought it was just the dumbest episode ever because it made no sense logically. The fight, the logistics of it was just super stupid and boring. Here, this is actually a pretty good episode, except there's a lot of nothing happening. Like, this is the longest episode of the Book of Boba Fett. I think it's like 50 something minutes. But there's a lot of nothing happening. There's just a lot of walking around. And I guess if you're trying to set up a world that feels real, like living, I can kind of understand it. But you don't really see it, is my point. All right, it just looks off. It's just basically we're seeing Mando walking around. And you guys remember like the season finale, the series finale of Game of Thrones, where it's basically just seeing Tyrion walking around, and you're like, well, how about if something fucking happens? That's kind of how it feels at times, but overall the episode's okay. Anyway, so you get to see Mando walk around. He goes into probably the most boring looking club ever, and here's the issue with this club. Let me tell you, it's the lighting. It doesn't look like you're in a club. Like it looks weird. You might have the weird music and the people pretending to be dancing, but it doesn't have the lighting. And everybody knows that if you're gonna be in a club, it's all about like the lights. It has to be darker. You know, it has to be a little bit dark. You have to feel like you can let loose a little bit more uninhibited. But whatever. I guess none of that really matters. It's just me being nitpicky. So we see that he's back to doing missions, and for some reason these dudes want him to join and have like food and stuff. But it's like, hey, he can't take off his helmet or whatever. But I don't know. It's a really weird thing. Mando's looking for information. He basically gets the information that he needs, and so he leaves because that's who Mando is. Like at least he's consistent. on the previous, on the last episode of The Mandalorians, we get to see him socialize a little bit more, be a little bit friendlier. But again, that was probably because he had the kid with him. He had Grogu. Now it's like, okay, we're seeing Mando. He's back to his old ways. He's back to being the loner, which is fine. It's fair. It's perfectly understandable. It's who he was before. It seems normal that he would revert to who he used to be. However, there has to be certain consequences to him reverting. We'll see the consequences as things move on. Because again, you can't have a character develop and then revert without there being a consequence, but we'll see. Again, this is just, we don't know how long Mando's are going to be in this episode at all. But again, we just see him walking around and walking around and walking around. And then we see him follow some tags. And as he's following some tags, we see him find a door. Like, these are basically hidden to the naked eye, but we see him find a door that has the logo of basically Boba Fett. And this is the one actually that I have in my hat. So let me just turn around and show it to you real quick. It's that logo. Now I thought that was the logo of Boba Fett, but I guess it's the Mandalorian logo. I don't know. And we've also learned that there's different factions of Mandalorians. There's the Bo-Katan faction who takes off their helmets, and then there's the ones who are the hardcore religious ones, which is the one that Mando follows around. All right, okay, I guess. We're not sure, and we're not exactly sure who even Boba Fett stands with, because they've said that Boba Fett's not a real Mandalorian, but he says he is. I don't know, man. Like, basically, to me, this is how it works. There's the faction of the Mandalorians who were born in Mandalore, and there's the faction of the Mandalorians who follow the Mandalorian religion. So, all right, there you go. That's basically the difference. So you could be both. Or so you could be born in Mandalore and follow the Mandalorian religion, and you could be, I guess, neither. You could be born in Mandalore and not follow the religion, not be of the warrior class or whatever. I don't know. They need to explain this. They really need to explain it, but whatever. We see Mando follow these things. He ends up kind of like at the bottom of the base through the things, and we see her finding the blacksmith. Now, I don't remember if that's her particular name, but this is the lady who basically built his armor and who's been kind of like a leader of the group that they had. Was kind of the leader of the group of Navarro, which makes perfect sense. She's kind of like a priestess. Now, if the Mandalorian religion values the Beskar armor above everything else, it makes perfect sense that your blacksmith would be like a spiritual leader. Anyway, so basically she, and we see that this dude's alive again. Now, you guys remember in season 1 of The Mandalorian, Mando, in order to escape with Grogu from the Empire, he gets help from a bunch of other Mandalorians who were still hiding in Navarro. One of them was like a big dude who he had issues with before, but he ended up helping them out. Afterwards, in The Mandalorian, we saw that a lot of Mandalorians got killed. We don't know how many, we don't know who, and it was not clear if this dude was alive, the big dude was alive. Here, we find out that the big dude's actually alive, and he actually has a name. And here is where you're like, motherfuckers, why do you have to telegraph everything? So, they tell us his name is something Vesla. Now, if you know anything about Star Wars, you know that Vesla, I forget his first name. Again, names are not my thing, okay? But you know that Vesla is the only Mandalorian Jedi, and he's the guy who actually built the Darksaber. So again, I've talked about the Darksaber a lot in my reviews of The Mandalorian. In the fun part, like the fun fact, you can just check that out if you want. Again, I think I do a pretty good job, but whatever. It's and so he's the guy who created the Darksaber. He was the only Jedi Mandalorian that I know of, and his name was Vesla. And so I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? This guy, we didn't know his name, all right? This dude, the big dude, we didn't know his name, and now all of a sudden, we find out that his name is Vesla. And for us who are in the know, we know that the Darksaber was created by a Vesla. Basically, imagine Vesla's the last name. So the Darksaber was created by a Vesla, so there has to be conflict here, right? However, not everybody knows this, so it could be like, ooh, it could be a surprise. It could be like, that was the saber was created by an ancestor or whatever. Fine, okay, it could work that way. But then immediately after they say this dude's name is Vesla, she says that, oh yeah, the Darksaber was created by a Vesla. And look, basically here, this dude's looking at it longingly. So you're like, are you fucking kidding me? Are you for real? Are we doing this? Like, are you just telegraphing exactly what's going to happen? Everybody and their mother knew what's going to happen here. So it's like, okay, so you have a heir of the Vesla here. You have somebody on the Vesla bloodline, and you immediately tell us, who, by the way, we didn't know his name. For 2 seasons, we didn't know this dude's name. I don't think they even said his name before. I might be wrong, but I don't think I am. And all of a sudden, you say his name, and 20 seconds later, you say, oh yeah, a dude with the same last name was the only Jedi Mandalorian, and he built he created the Darksaber. Are you fucking kidding me? Is that real? Anyway, the point is they're telegraphing what's going to happen. And they're going to be like, all right, so there's going to be a fight between the big dude and Mando for the sword. Because, duh. Like, there's no other reason why that. And they didn't really have to justify it, right? It could have just been like, hey, I think I'm better than you, and I'm going to take it from you. But whatever. Anyway, they felt the need to add that. Why? I don't know. Whatever. Then she says something pretty interesting about the Empire. It's like, yeah, all this talk about the Empire, but actually we were kind of shit. Like, they lasted for 30 years. It's not that impressive. Anyway, she explains the situation about why the Darksaber is important for the Mandalorian religion, the rules, why it has to be won through combat. She talks about Bo-Katan and how Bo-Katan is actually, like, the epitome of why she failed is because she took it as a gift. She didn't earn it through combat. And then she gives, she talks about a kind of like a prophecy, like it is said one warrior will defeat 20 and the multitudes will fall before it. So I'm assuming we're gonna get to see a 20 on 1 fight of Mando against somebody else, or Mando against 20 dudes. That would be pretty interesting, but whatever. So they're setting up stuff. They're setting up interesting things. They're explaining why. Okay, Tar Vizsla. There you go. It was driving me nuts. The name of the Jedi Mandalorian who built the Darksaber, his name was Tara Vizsla, and he forged it over 1,000 years ago. So there you go. And so this all thing, he it leads to Mando explaining like, oh yeah, well I completed my quest. I left Grogu with his kind, basically, with the Jedi. And let me see, Gus Viscera. Mandalorians are Jews. You can be Jewish by heritage without following the religion, or you can be an Orthodox Jew and follow all things religion as well. I guess that's an easy real world explanation. There you go. Anyway. So, Paz Vizsla. Okay, so the big dude's name is Paz Vizsla. They just introduced his name. Like, literally just introduced his name. And all of a sudden, like 20 seconds later, they tell us that the Jedi who created the Darksaber's name is Tara Vizsla. I mean, come on. Honestly. Like, seriously, the right... How stupid do you think we are? Seriously, how stupid do you think we are? Anyway, none of that was necessary, but I guess they did it because they want to, I don't know, world build or whatever. Then we see them... The armorer invites Jin to join their group, so it's like 3 of them, and they need to rebuild. They need to rebuild their faction or whatever, and so they start rebuilding shit. And as they're rebuilding stuff, they talk about what happened to the dude who had the Darksaber before him, whether or not he's gonna go to jail or whatnot, and then the heralding of a new age of Mandalore, and kind of this is where Mando, it kind of starts getting his new let's say calling. So the plan for the next season of The Mandalorian, and it's interesting stuff. Also a weird thing happens. So Mando basically shows them that he has a Beskar spear, right? You know, remember the Beskar spear he got? It's the metal spear that he got on the episode that Ahsoka Tano appears, and so the armor is like, yeah, that spear is actually pretty dangerous. It's made out of Beskar, and it could pierce Beskar armor, so its existence puts Mandalorians at risk. So we need to kind of get rid of it. And Mando's like, all right, and she's like, you already have the Darksaber, so let's get rid of the spear. And Mando's like, okay, then forge it into armor for a foundling. And the foundling that he wants, and this is actually kind of funny and ridiculous, and it bothers me on an intellectual level, because the armorer says that Beskar is not supposed to be turned into weapons. It's supposed to be used to build armor for Mandalorians. And it's like, bitch, you're the chick who created the songbirds. Now, if you guys remember, Mando has a weapon on his left wrist that's kind of basically bullshit. It's a bunch of tiny missiles that automatically hit whoever's around him that he targets, and it's an automatic win. It's a bullshit weapon. And it's made out of Beskar, and she's the one who built it. So you're like, are you fucking kidding me? You can't build the bullshit weapon that's an auto win and then complain that somebody else built a weapon into a spear, like a less efficient form of killing somebody. But whatever. Doesn't matter. It's one of those little things that you're like, you wrote this. It's the same writer. You're the one who wrote the songbirds being created. I don't even remember if it's called the songbird. I think it's a songbird. And then all of a sudden complain that somebody built a spear. You built both. Anyway, it bugs me because it was the same person, and it's basically the opposite complaint. But whatever. Doesn't matter. So he asked for the spear to be forged into armor for a foundling, and he wants it to be basically forged into something for Grogu. And here it's pretty interesting because, again, we get the whole thing with Bo-Katan. They explain the situation of what happened in Mandalore, how it got destroyed, why. We get to see it, like the bombardment of Mandalore, the destruction, all that stuff. Again, which is stuff we hadn't seen before. It's not really clear. They don't go into detail, but we get to see some of it. And we get to see like the droid killing squads, and you're like, this is why this guy hates droids. Whatever. And so we get a little bit of background there, and it's interesting. Then Mando explains that, okay, I want this to be done for Grogu, because Grogu's a foundling. However, he's going to be a Jedi. And here, okay, they just explained that it's possible to be a Jedi and a Mandalorian. However, the Mandalorian ideology and the Jedi ideology kind of don't mix. If you guys remember, in order to be a Jedi, you must forgo, they say it here, you must forgo all attachments. And the issue with Anakin is that he was never able to let go of his mom. That's why he went to the dark side. But Mando's like, but the thing about the Mandalorians is that, well, we are like communal, we're a family, so we need to be together. So, okay, it's been established in this episode that it's possible to be both a Mandalorian and a Jedi. It's just, you're really crossing streams that should not be streamed, but they should not be crossed. However, it could work. It's not ordinary, it's not recommended, but it could work, so whatever, I'll let it go. And it's one of those things that where Mando's like, well, I want to go see him again. And it bugs me. It really bugs me, because I thought moving forward, man, listen, I like Grogu, okay? Fine. I didn't like how they used him as a character. I hated that they used him as a prop more than a character, but I enjoyed watching the little guy there. He was fun. He was enjoyable at times, but I hated what he did to Mando. He was Mando's greatest weakness, and he made him into a dumbass. However, and now it looks like Mando wants to go chase him again. It's one of those things like, are you fucking kidding me? However, it is 100% within Mando's character, because he is the dumbass who just can't stop thinking about that kid. So, fine. I get it. I get why Mando would do this. It just annoys me because I expect it to be more like a Mando Unleashed. You know, like, all right, I need to find a new place. I no longer have that one weakness, so I want to explore the galaxy. However, there's the possibility of Luke Skywalker showing up again, so I'm excited about that. That's got potential. So fine, I'll let it go. Also, I don't think that Grogu's gonna show up again for the entire season. I think he's going to do a cameo and then walk out. And the cameo is basically because Disney wants to sell merchandise. And imagine a Grogu with a Jedi, like a Padawan, I don't know, Padawan style, like clothing, and Mandalorian armor. That'd be kind of cool. I might buy that, but whatever. Anyway, Mob Nasty, Dario, much love, homie. Escondido, California, tapping in, man. Mob Nasty, appreciate you joining me, and appreciate Escondido. So thanks for stopping by. Let's continue. Then we get this scene where Mando's trying to fight the armorer, and we get to see that Mando kind of sucks. Like, and the armorer explains it. It's because you're fighting against the blade, not against your enemy. And so here things start coming together, and I'm like, man, I guess I should apologize, because the fight in the beginning sucked. And Mando looked silly and dumb. But here they're explaining it. It's because Mando has not mastered the Darksaber. And it's possible that it's because he's not Force sensitive. He doesn't have what it takes. 'Cause wielding a lightsaber, it's kind of been explained that you need to have some kind of Force sensitivity to use it. However, it looks like Mando, he's stubborn. He wants to go through with it. But he just looks bad. He looks really bad. He looks really weak. He can't deal with this fight. And so as this fight's going on, Paz Vizsla is like, hey, that sword was created by my ancestor, and I want to fight you for it. And it's one of those things where you're like, I mean, we all saw it coming like a million miles away. Like, everybody and their mother saw this one coming because they just said it. And all right, fine, whatever. So the Paz Vizsla is going in for the fight. Man, it drops the gauntlet, challenges. Mando accepts, and we get this cool fight between two Mandalorians. They both take off their jetpacks, meaning that if they fall off, they're dead. They're going to go into the depths of space or whatever. Now, I don't know if this is particularly smart, because if Paz knocks down Mando and he drops with the Darksaber, well, then he would probably lose the Darksaber. But, I mean, though, he did just get in a ship and find it back. Anyway, whatever. We have the fight, and we see this... we see Paz Vizsla has the knife, like the special knife that Mando used to kill the big rhino thing at the start of the series. So that thing's super deadly, and he actually stabs Mando with it, and Mando like shakes it off like it's nothing. So you're like, man, we saw that knife kill a giant rhino. Like I thought it's because it was a special knife. Turns out that it's fucking bullshit, and it's one of those things that just fucking annoys me because it was written by the same fucking person. You didn't have to give him the crazy knife. Whatever, it doesn't matter. So they're in this fight, and basically, long story short, Mando's not doing too good because he can't handle the blade. He ends up losing the blade. The other guy takes it. Turns out that guy can't handle the blade either, and Mando uses the knife to start slicing up at his legs and basically wins the fight. So Mando ends up taking the fight at the end because he's actually a better fighter without the dark blade, which is an interesting handicap. They gave Mando a super powerful weapon, and we already know he's a super good fighter. However, the sword makes him a weaker fighter. So it's an interesting handicap, and now we're seeing, okay, this is kind of the direction where the Mandalorian's going to go. He has to learn how to master this weapon in order for him to become like this uber badass. Now, it kind of sucks because it feels like they're kind of, we realized that we gave too powerful of a weapon of a too cool of a character, but it's like, how about if you just lean into it? How about if you just make him a bigger badass? But whatever. The growth is also interesting to watch. Anyway, after this, the armorer is like, hey, Paz Vizsla, have you ever taken off your helmet? And he's like, no, never. This is the way. And then she asked Mando, and Mando's like, what? Excuse me? What were you saying? Like, have you ever taken off your helmet? And Mando's like, pass. I don't want to answer that. Anyway, so he's like, I'm sorry, I did it. How can I atone? And the chick is like, well, basically, you can go to the living waters beneath the mines of Mandalore, which is honestly a very kind of like this is supposed to be like a cardinal sin, and all you have to do is take a shower to be forgiven. All right, like now it's difficult because again, Mandalore was destroyed, so it could be a little bit more difficult to accomplish. But before, it's like all I have to do is go, like, Mandalore. We control Mandalore. I guess we could just go to the mines and take a shower. But all right, you know what? Okay. It's one of those things that, you know, like most religions have a way to atone, and it's not like a crazy way. Like the Catholics, all we have to do is say we're sorry and mean it. So, all right, there you go. So Mando's like, all right, okay, I guess he'll do that. And so he leaves, which is a really weird thing to happen because they are down. They're only down they're down to only 3 Mandalorians, and they kicked them out. But in a way, it's like, hey, no, we're not kicking you out. We're giving you a chance to redeem yourself because we're pure. These dudes are Puritans 100% of the way. So, all right, which makes it even a bigger deal that Mando even took off his helmet. So, for his love of Grogu. But anyway, let's see. Chuck Dominguez is only special because Mando unleashed his powers. Lol. He needs to do it. He needs to actually tap into that, and then he will become a true badass. But we'll see. Because he's already a badass, but he will be like the biggest badass. I hope that there's at one point a fight between Luke Skywalker and Mando when Mando learns how to control the Darksaber. That would be fucking epic, but whatever. By the way, if I have to guess, if Grogu is going to end up being the next Mandalorian Jedi, the one who's going to end up wielding the Darksaber is going to be Grogu. Like, I'm willing to put money on it. Like, that the next wielder of the Darksaber will be Grogu because he will be both a Mandalorian and a Jedi. But whatever, we'll see how that goes. Anyway, so we get to see Mando basically go and get a plane, get on a commercial flight. And this is, again, a huge, massive waste of time of on-screen. No, we get to see, again, we get to see this Mass Effect Star Wars world, which is, I thought was going somewhere, but really wasn't. But the purpose of this whole situation, if you guys remember, the Mandalorian's ship, the Razor Crest, got destroyed. I believe it's in the episode where Grogu gets kidnapped by the Dark Troopers. Yes, the Dark Troopers destroy his ship, and that's when he meets up with Boba Fett. Anyway, so we see that Mandalore, it's very inconvenient for him to travel, you know, like the public. They make him take off his weapons, put it in a box, and there's this whole thing of him disarming, putting it in a box, and then getting on a plane, sitting on a plane, watching out the window, having a kid stare at him, and then he reaches Tatooine, Mos Eisley specifically. He walks out, he uses his ticket, and he gets all of his weapons back. And I thought this was extremely bizarre. When he was putting the weapons in the box, you assume, all right, if the reason they're showing this to us is because he's gonna lose the Darksaber, right? And I thought this is just stupid. This is the dumbest. If this is how he loses his weapon, this is the dumbest fucking thing ever. But he didn't. So it's like, why even show it? Why are you even showing all of this to us? Like, what's the point? Why did the audience need to see this? And the reason why they did it after, again, this is some of the things that this episode did. It annoyed me, and then afterwards, like, oh, that's why they did it. And so the reason why they did this is to show us how annoying it is to travel this way and how badly Mando needs a ship. So it doesn't really matter what ship he gets. He really, really needs one because this was fucking annoying. If it was annoying for us to watch, imagine how annoying it was to them. So again, credit where credit's due. It probably didn't have to be that long, but it had a purpose. So again, I apologize because at first I'm like, you're an idiot. Why are you showing Bryce Dallas Howard? Why are we watching this? But there was a purpose to it. So fine. All right. Again, I apologize. Credit where credit's due. So we get to see the return of the character that people have dubbed the Sky of the Sky of the Star Wars universe because they have the same hair. Anyway, we get to see them basically being clowns trying to catch a rat. Mando shows up and is like, hey, you said you had a ship for me. Let's see the ship. And here we get to see that Bryce Dallas Howard, again, the director of the episode, has a lot, and I mean a lot of love for episode 1. This episode showed a buttload of love for episode 1 of Star Wars. I mean, the Phantom Menace, because the ship that the Sky here suggested is basically a Naboo starfighter, which is really weird. I mean, it's a cool ship. It's a cool design. However, there's a lot of things that don't make sense here to me because the reason why Mando wanted the Razor Crest, besides of, like not being registered and all that shit, it's because he lives on his ship. He needed space to live on, and the starfighter might be cool. It's like, I guess it's the difference between having a van and having, I don't know, like a sports car. You could live off a van. You can't live off a sports car. You just can't. I mean, you'd be sitting up. I guess you can start camping. It's just not as convenient per se. However, she sells the ship, and Mando at first doesn't want it, but she manages to convince him that they could modify it and it would be super fast and it's great and it's going to be a custom job, whatever. And again, now we understand why we had to see how inconvenient it is to travel with the public, to travel economy. So it's like, all right, fine, I'll take this fucking ship. They build it, and we get to see this whole thing of them building the ship, which is interesting. I like all this stuff. And again, here we're getting introduced to a bunch of different sci-fi terms that we don't really understand, but it looks cool. We get introduced to the fact that Jawas can steal stuff for you. I mean, they don't technically steal it, but they steal it. I mean, you can ask them to steal stuff. So there's opening up of a new, let's say, market, a new opportunity. So that, which all that, it's interesting stuff. This is world building stuff. It's really cool. The dynamic of these two characters, it's fun. Like, because Mando is straight up, he's deadpan, he's serious. The Sky chick is cartoony, so it meshes up well. It doesn't feel like a kiddie show. It feels like, okay, it's just a goofy character with a serious character. Fine, let's continue all this stuff. Even though she said that she banged Jawas and they're furry. All right, whatever. We get to see the building of the ship. And this is, again, I like all this stuff because there's got to be a payoff. And we got to see how the ship looks at the end, right? And in the end, we get to see... Oh, we also get to see, like, this droid dude. He's... It's like a walker droid. He walks on 2 feet. This guy is from actually Jedi Fallen Order. I believe that's where they introduced this type of droid. They're actually pretty cool, but whatever. I guess that's not relevant right now. We get to see Mando interacting with that guy, so I'm guessing they're trying to sell his figurines. And so, point is, they ended up building the ship, and it looks pretty cool, and he ends up testing it out, right? Now, this is something that kind of... you look at it looks really cool, right? It looks kind of like like the equivalent of a muscle car, but in a starship, it's got the guns. But you can't live here. You just can't live here. You can't live on this thing. Now, if he's pulling some kind of extra living facility afterwards, I don't know. You can't live in this thing. And Mando lived on this. I mean, he's a bounty hunter. He's going to collect bounties. How is he going to transport them? You can't just tie them up in the hood of the car. So they're gonna have to find a way to deal with that particular situation. Anyway, Mando then takes it out for a test drive, and honestly, here again, we get to see all the love for episode 1. Here's like a little. Let me see. Okay, damn it. 1 second off, because I wanted to show you something that bothered me again, because I get bothered by stuff. There's a, damn it, in the cockpit there's a little bit of air you could see come in, so it doesn't seal. Like you see, go and watch the episode again. Where he puts his hand, like right here, there's air. Like this thing's not completely sealed, and you're like, this thing's gonna go to space. It'll suck you out. So check that out. It's actually pretty fun. It's one of those things where you're like, seriously, Disney, you have this massive art department. They couldn't just put like a piece of plastic in it so that you can't see air coming in it, and whatever, doesn't matter. So he takes it out for the test drive, and god damn it, stupid internet. Takes it out for a test drive, and we see the canyons where before we saw Anakin Skywalker and the pod racing stuff. He basically straight up goes. They show. I think this might be the same fucking animal that was in Star Wars Episode 1, like the one that they wake up and he's like, It might be just like the older version of that. Now it would be like, I don't know, 30 years older, maybe a descendant. I don't know, whatever. We see the ramp, we see everything. Then he goes off into space. So again, a lot of love was given to Episode 1 on this episode. I mean, a lot of love. And so we get to see him flying around space, checking out the engines, testing it out. And then something really weird happens. He gets stopped by a couple of X-Wings. So New Republic fighters, they just stop him. And you're like, what the fuck is going on? We don't know much about, this new world. But what we do know is that Tatooine, not really under Republic control. It's kind of like in the outskirts. So what are these? And also, space, kind of vast. So the idea of Mando getting stopped by cops in Tatooine is just fucking ridiculous. Now, this whole conversation makes no fucking sense. But if I have to guess, they're trying to set up something for their new show. They're trying to set up these two dudes as part of the Rogue Fighters whatever show that they want to do, because I know they're going to do another spin-off. It was supposed to be the one with Gina Carano, but I guess now they're going to go in a different direction. I don't know what's happening, but we see this dude again, who I think he's been on several times on right now. I forget his name, whatever. And he mentions the Racer Quest, and Mando's basically like, hey, you know what? Fuck you guys, and he just leaves because he's got a faster ship. And these dudes are like, do you really want to write a report or chase him, or do you just want to leave? Anyway, Chuck Dominguez, I feel like he's going to get a bigger ship and use that to roam around town, kind of like Cowboy Bebop. That would make sense. Honestly, that would make total sense. I hope that happens, because it's going to bug me if the entire show he's just like in the little cockpit. Because where are you living? Where you go to the bathroom? Where you sleep? So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, so he goes back to Sky, and while he's there, it turns out that Fennec showed up, and Fennec basically is like, hey, we need money. Oh, well, okay, no, we need muscle. How about if you join us? And Mando's like, sure, and I'll do it for free. And she's like, awesome. And he's like, but I need to go see about a little friend first. And so that's where the episode ends. So, like I said, great episode. There's a lot of wasted time. I mean, like a lot of wasted time, but I guess could be for a reason. They wanted to build like the look of this Mass Effect world, Star Warsy world. They wanted to make you feel annoyed about having to get on a ship and stuff. But overall, like I said, the best episode of the Book of Boba Fett is not a Book of Boba Fett episode, which is really bad for the Book of Boba Fett. I'm telling you. But it sets up interesting stuff. So first off, let's talk about the things that it sets up for the Mandalorian. We kind of know that he's going to be chasing down Grogu. Now, if you guys remember clearly, when Luke Skywalker takes Grogu, he does not leave like a phone number or anything. So I'm guessing he's going to be hunting Luke Skywalker down, or he's probably going to go to Coruscant and the capital of the Republic and be like, hey, do you know where I can find this guy? I'm guessing he's kind of famous. So we may see Coruscant again. We know that he's going to check out Grogu, and Grogu's got to get a new costume because whatever it is that they built for him armor-wise, it's going to be delivered to him. We know that he has to go back to Mandalore because he needs to redeem his sins of taking his helmet off, which should be pretty cool because now we're going to get into what the fuck happened to Mandalore, and is Mandalore even savable? And will Mando be the person who leads Mandalore back to its glory days? Will he be the savior of the Mandalorians, both by race and by creed? And they tease the possibility of him having to take down 20 dudes at once, so which should be cool. So all this is cool stuff for the Mandalorian. And for the Book of Boba Fett, We know that Boba Fett's gathering muscle, so he's already got a big-ass Wookiee. He's already got Fennec. Now Mando has signed up too. So, okay, it's got potential. Now, all you got to do is kind of like keep going in this direction and stop doing all the other dumb stuff that doesn't make any sense. So, potentially, we could start getting more interesting stuff. Potentially. Now, I've been cautiously optimistic, and actually, I've been mostly negative because that's just who I am. Now I'm being cautiously optimistic. I like the potential for this new universe, that this whole Star Wars universe they're doing. I'm not completely sold on the whole Mass Effect-y thing, the whole Mass Effect-ness of it all, but I love Mass Effect, so it could work out. I don't know. The point is, it shows potential. After 2 episodes of putting their head up their asses, this one was a good one. Hopefully they build up from that. So again, it's all about what you do with it. You've set up stuff. Some of it was lame, but here you set up a lot of stuff. It's all about what you do with it, and they have more than enough here to give us cool stuff. We should have a Mando, Boba Fett, Chewbacca, Wookiee cardstock. I forget his name. Always Fennec fight against the Pike Syndicate. That should be pretty cool. Just do something with it. You know, the big monster whose name I also forget. We'll see. Gus Becerra, Boba Fett is like Hulk Hogan in the 2000s. Still a fan favorite and gets a pop when he shows up. But the reality is that he's old and slow, not nearly in good enough shape. You know what really bugs me about Boba Fett? That he keeps taking off the helmet. I don't understand it. I remember in the Star Wars movies, Boba Fett never took off his helmet. Never. At least in the original ones. And now he just takes it off whenever he feels like it. Now, it is possible that the reason why Boba Fett starts taking off his helmet is because, you know, he lost it after the Sarlacc pit, and then with the whole thing with the Tuskens, he's like, I don't need it, so he doesn't really follow the religion that much. However, I guess they could have explained that. He could have said something at some point, and it's not exactly clear if he's part of the Bo-Katan crew, because he and Bo-Katan, when we saw him in The Mandalorian, did not get along at all. In fact, Bo-Katan was like, "You're not a real Mandalorian," and so I'm not exactly sure what the fuck is even going on. But hopefully they'll explain. Or hopefully Boba Fett just says like, "Yeah, I realize after losing my armor, I realized it's not the most important thing," or that I don't know, because there's something about negotiating with the helmet on that makes you scarier. They can read your eyes. That's why poker players wear sunglasses. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how they play this off. Anyway, that's it for today. So, as always, any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can find me at Dario SDW and what am I doing? Okay, no, at Super Dario World on YouTube and on Twitch. Streaming next week probably. You know what? I'll probably aim for 5 because I like the way my internet worked at 5. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, kind of at 5 p.m. We'll see how that goes. It honestly depends. My schedule really is massively in flux. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, if you want to send me something privately, you can do that on Instagram at Super Dario World and at Dario SDW. As always, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you again next time.